been told that if we could move the microphones as near as possible to where we're speaking from, and also if we're talking to other people, if we turn our mouths away or our heads away from the microphone, that makes it much more difficult to hear. So though it might look rude not to look at the person, please could we try and concentrate on just speaking into the microphone, but we'll see how we go. The first item on the agenda is the appointment of the Vice Chair for 2022-23.
Chairman, could I propose Councillor Rutter? She's already taken up residence.
Right, thank you. Are there any other proposals for Vice Chair? No, thank you. So, Councillor Rutter, congratulations, you're duly elected.
Thank you,
Vice Chairman. Apologies and deputy members.
Morning, Chair. Thank you. Had apologies from Councillor McLean this morning, who's been replaced by Councillor Cook, and all other members of the committee are present. Thank you.
And welcome, Councillor Cook. And disclosures of interest? Councillor Westwood.
Thank you, Chair. Just a person with non-judicial as mentioned practice in item 7 and also ward council.
Councillor, thank you very much. Do you come to this meeting with an open mind?
Thank you. And so we move on to item 4 on the agenda, minutes of the previous meeting, which when I looked at it was a long time back in March, but they're on pages 9 to 14 of our report. Are those agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. And then could we accept the update sheet as an addendum to the reports?
Agreed.
Thank you. And so we move then to the first item, which is St Paul's Medical Practice, Allison Way in Winchester, 22/00101/FUL. And the case officer is it Jordan? Are you the case officer? And so Jordan Wiseman. And so when you're ready, Jordan, we're ready to listen to your presentation.
Thank you, Chair. So this application is for a first floor extension of St Paul's Medical Practice. Okay.
Sorry, we seem to have hit a technical detail with the microphone, which we're just sorting out. Apologies for the short delay. We are still sorting out the technical difficulties. Okay, I think we're ready to start. Do you want to start from the beginning, Jordan?
Okay, thank you, Chair. So this application is for a first floor extension on St Paul's Medical Practice, provide a further 3 treatment rooms at surgery. The application site is outlined here, hatched out in blue. Hill running along just along the side. Allison Way is here, in front of the medical practice. Again, just shows the site location in a bit more detail. In the right-hand plan, you can see the application site itself hatched out in red, and just about see it where my cursor is now. The site for physical extension is hatched out here. This is a plan of the existing ground floor layout. Next plan is the proposed ground floor layout, which is, there's no change proposed to this layout. Shows the existing first floor plan, and outlined in red is the site for the proposed first floor extension. This plan is a proposed first floor layout, which shows now the proposed extension layout on this floor plan, and you can see the 3 treatment rooms here being proposed. These are the existing west and south elevations, which is where the extension will be most visible from. The top elevation here, with an arrow pointing existing roof, where the proposed first floor extension will be erected. And bottom elevation, sort of in white here, is the neighbouring orthodox structure, and behind that is where the proposed extension will sit. These are the proposed west to south elevations, now showing the proposed extension here in its built form, and below the proposed elevation from the south with the extension there in its built. These are the existing and proposed east elevation. The top elevation in white here shows phases of extensions that have been previously approved in 2018, which don't form part of this application. But just below, the only part of this application which will be visible, the addition of a new fire exit to serve. This plan here shows the existing car park serving the medical practice. There is no proposed changes or alterations to the car park. Moving on to site photographs. This photo shows a view looking north towards the application site. The medical practice sits just behind these here, and this is stood by the entrance to Allison Way. Just a slightly different view of the application site, again looking north at the top of St Paul's Hill, next to the entrance of Allison Way. Again, here you can just about see the medical practice here. Another photo looking north, just stood slightly more within Allison Way, medical practice here to the north. Another zoomed in photograph looking north, closer up now to the medical practice. You can see the flat roof section of building here, and this is where the proposed extension will. And this here, grey flat roof, is the neighbouring dentist. This is another photo, again looking north, stood now in front of the adjoining orthodontist, and the proposed extension here, views of that, you will just about see the top of the ridge of the proposed here. This is a view of the application site looking southeast. This is again taken somewhere else within Allison Way. This is the front of the medical practice now, and this area of roof here is where the proposed extension is to be. Another view of the application site looking east from within Allison Way. Slightly different view, just showing the application site more head-on, where you will see here the same bit of existing roof where the proposed first floor extension. This next photo is a view of the site looking south from within Allison Way. Again, you've got the front of the practice on the left-hand side here. This is of the proposed development, maybe called right here. Another view of the application site looking south, but from further within Allison Way, now stood next to the existing car park which serves the practice. The proposed extension is going to be sited just behind this part of the This is a view of the existing car park serving application site looking east. Again, there are no changes proposed to this car park, and the proposed extension will not be visible. This is a view looking northwest towards the application site, which is taken from the top of St Paul's Hill. You can see the adjacent contest here. Proposed first floor extension will be behind the building. This is a view of the site looking up St Paul's Hill, looking southwest. You can see St Paul's Medical Practice here. The physical extension which is being proposed on this application will not be visible from this viewpoint. This is also stood from within the curtilage of St Paul's Church, which is the nearest listed building. Another view looking up St Paul's Hill, looking south towards the application site, which is just behind these trees here. Again, the proposed extension is not visible from this viewpoint. Concludes the presentation on this application, and the application is recommended for approval.
Thank you very much. Now turn to the public speaking, and we just have one public speaker, Philip Hayden, who's the applicant and is speaking in support, of course. Yes, please come forward. Use your microphone. Yes, and when you're ready, you press the button as you've correctly indicated. If you could just lower the microphone, perhaps. Yes, thank you. And you'll see that the time, you have 3 minutes, and you can see that the time is on the screen. It will go back to 3 once you start speaking. And then it could be that the councillors will want to ask you questions of clarification afterwards. Perhaps not. So when you're ready, Mr. Hayden, please start.
Thank you, Chair. So my name is Philip Hayden. I'm the Managing Partner at St Paul's Surgery, which is the application you're looking at today. I've come here really to answer any questions more than to promote it any further. I think you have your information packs as to the reasons why we are looking to build this, but just to go back over some of those. So Winchester city population, as you know, is significantly growing. We have detailed packs from Public Health England to say that the current population that is registered to practices within Winchester is 63,000, and that is looking to go to 73,000 within the next 15 years, with the large majority being front-ended within that because of the likes of Barton Farm, the Romsey Road development, etc. There are 3 practices in Winchester, but if you look at the data packs again, St Paul's Surgery has got a great reputation, and over the last 7 years has significantly grown by 7,000 patients over that time. And we have outlived our building, which is now 20 years old. Patients have a choice, so it's not that they can be directed to the other practices that may have a few spare consulting rooms. It is patient choice. We are working locally with the other practices with something called Primary Care Networks, which is our new contract, and our additionality staff we are actually basing in other practices at the moment, trying to maximise that healthcare plan in the city. I think the main objection that I keep reading is around the car park and the traffic flow through Allison Way. But really what I want to announce here is if we go back pre-pandemic, 3 years ago, we were doing 91,000 consultations per year, 80% of which were face-to-face, 20% which were remote. Now, and I'm sure you're aware of local media, etc., that actually post-pandemic, and we don't think this is going to change for the longer term, we're still doing just shy of 91,000 appointments, but actually now 40% is face-to-face and 60% is remote. Now, we don't mean remote as in GPs working from home. They are still in our building, but they do require to bring that patient down after they've spoken to them as well. The traffic actually has considerably reduced. We've had lots of good feedback from the residents around that, and we do work very closely with the board and the management company around that. And I don't see that changing with these 3 new treatment rooms. So that was the main bit I wanted to come and put across to you today.
Thank you very much. Having asked you to move the microphone nearer, could you push it away a bit now? Because there was a sort of feedback then. Yeah, great. Councillors, any questions for Mr. Hayden? Councillor Edwards?
Thank you, Chair. Really just a clarification. I'm a little confused by the figures about demand and use. And I'm still a bit confused after your presentation. Because on the one hand, you talk about increased number of patients registered with the practice and the expectation that that will increase. But you also talk about a very substantial growth in remote consultations. So I wonder if a bit more detail about why the space, additional space, is required when 40% of people are coming to the.
Okay, yeah, happy to take that. So again, in the NHS, there is a bit of a recruitment crisis at the moment, and one of our primary care network is around gaining additionality. We've done many different surveys around clinical staff and whether they would work from home, would work in a practice, etc. And it is very off-putting for clinical staff who can't get that support from their colleagues working in that environment. So they will be working out of a room in which they are remotely telephoning the patient, and on occasion will therefore need to bring them in for that further assessment. So it is that doubling act of trying to get the staff in that we really need, but secondly giving that option that they can then bring them down to that treatment room as and when required.
Thank you. Any further questions from Councillor Cook?
Thank you, Chair. I would like to come back to the car parking issue, if I may. And I think it's on page 24 of our document. It refers to 27 car parking spaces. The GPs park elsewhere. The GPs park on site. Is that right? That's what I'm reading. And you've now got a further 4 spaces at the church. But in the paragraph before, it says that the staff are. It's suggested that the staff should try and find other forms of transport to get to work. So where are the GPs? Are the GPs parking you say on site? And when you're getting these extra 4 spaces, are the GPs going to park there? I just need a bit of clarification on the spaces, because I actually, if I'm allowed to say this, I actually drove there to look at a couple of different times of the day, just to be clear in my mind. And if I was a patient turning up, how easy would it be to park? And I just want to get some clarification on that. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Absolutely, yes, thank you. Just correction to that statement in terms of there are 28 car parking spaces at the moment, 10 of which are GP behind a barrier. There are then 18 which are public. What we are trying to do is the GPs need their cars for home visits, so they do need to be parked relatively closely to the practice. We're working with the church to try and maximise their car park. They have about 12 spaces there. We have currently 4 that we are donating from them, and we're on a waiting list to up that to the full 12 as and when we can get them. If we achieve that, then what we will do is we will physically move all of our GPs down the road to that church car park, which then releases those 28 parking spaces to patients. But we're going to do that in a structured way in terms of we think we will only get released 2 every now and again. And there are, if you've seen our car park, kind of bollards that block from patient to staff, and we will release back those spaces to patients as and when we can. So that's it. In terms of all our other staff, we then support via cycle to work schemes. We do the park and ride schemes. We incentivise walking. So yeah, it is only the GPs that are parking on site, but that is because of the home visit request.
Can I ask a further question, if I may? So back to the spaces. It's not 27 as in the report. It's actually 28. You've got the orthodontists, and there is a sign up there that clearly says if you're going to the doctors, you don't park here, you park elsewhere. And even in the pictures I've noticed, they are double parking at the orthodontist. So you've got quite a good relationship with them, have you? Because there is a management company that have got signs all around the estate, haven't they? And I think it's quite a hefty fine if you park where you shouldn't park. And are they very active, if I may ask, please?
The car park company are very active. Yes, they do. So they are ticketing cars as and when. The orthodontist is nothing to do with us, and they are double parking. We have had conversations with them because their patients do spill over into ours, and I'm not sure they have the same work ethic in terms of asking their staff members to park off site, which is what we think could be achieving that car parking release. Was that answering your question? Sorry, was there a third one?
No, that's absolutely fine. It's important for you both to work together, really. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Hayden, could I just ask you, in these extra rooms that are in the application, are you using those for normal GP services, or are you doing additional services like mental health or?
So as a practice, we do not do any private work, so it won't be private, it will purely be NHS. It will be a mixture of people that go in those rooms. It could be GPs, it could be mental health specialists. We rota each day differently and maximise our space. So yes, it's NHS work going in there, but it could be different clinicians.
Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Chair. During your answer to Councillor Cook, you went through a list of alternative means of attending. The one thing I didn't hear was public transport. Is there a bus stop or anything like that close to hand? Unfortunately, I'm not 100% familiar with the area, so I could have answered it myself by going up, but I didn't.
So the closest bus stop to us would be either the station or the hospital there, and we're just off Clifton Terrace Road in Winchester. So depending on mobility, it is easy to either go down the hill one way and then the station. But in terms of our staff are using alternative means, being the park and ride.
Is that it, councillors, for questions? So thank you very much, Mr. Hayden, for coming along. If you'd like to return to your seat, thank you very much. Jordan, anything you want to pick up from what you've heard in the public speaking?
No, nothing to add from.
Okay, so we will turn to the report, which starts on page 19. The first item is principle of development, and I'm including with that the impact on the character and appearance of the area. Any questions on that? Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Chairman. On page 21, the last sentence on the penultimate paragraph at the top of the page talks about the fire escapes and mentioned this, but there was no photograph of the area. I've been looking at the little map that we get to ascertain exactly what it would look like. People coming down there, and where do they go?
Yeah, thank you. Just back on the. So the fire is. Oh, it's not on. Yes, so the fire escape would be on this elevation here, as I understand it. It would be visible from car park. showing this. So it would be the eastern elevation where the fire exit is. I believe that would match up with, but I think may correct me. Yeah, so according to this site plan, I think you can just see the fire exit outlined here. Here to be the eastern.
So presumably the muster area is.
Thank you. So we'll then move on then to development affecting the South Downs National Park, and there's quite a large paragraph of historic environment because this is in the conservation area. Councillor Rutter.
Thank you, Chair. I think you said that the only listed building nearby is St Paul's Church. Is that right?
According to the sort of the mapping systems that we work off of, that's the only listed building that flagged up in.
All right, because it's right next to the old workhouse, which is flats. So are we taking it that the workhouse is not listed in any way, or?
So the site is within the conservation area. When I did my assessment of the application, the old workhouse did not show up as a listed building. It was a church. If I scroll back, this is our mapping system with the listed building layer on the map, and this was outlined in pink. Is the only one which flagged up in
I'm
the
just
area.
surprised the old workhouse isn't this flagged up, but it's part of the conservation area,
Yes,
so that's
correct.
fine. And yeah, that's fine. Thank you very much.
Any further questions? Councillor Westwood.
Thank you, Chair. A question on the design. So the extension will roof on it, which is parallel to the existing roof surgery building. That roofing has solar panels all the way across it. This new roof is going to be between those solar panels and the sun. Is there any shading existing solar panel? The design.
So, to my knowledge, I mean, it would be down to the architects to find the proposal to get that out. In my assessment, I've not really assessed whether there would be shading to those existing solar panels. I don't think the proposed scheme has solar panels on that part of the roof. So it's looking north, so south is in that direction, so the sun will still hit those sections of roof. Whether the solar panels will be as effective as they currently are as a result of this being built, I wouldn't really be able to answer that question.
Thank you, Chair. That would concern me, that there is shading over those panels with the design as I see it. I'm not an expert there, but I'm a ward councillor there. I know the area well. I know that the new roof is directly south of the existing roof with the banks of solar panels. So I wouldn't like to see this go ahead and cause any shading over those solar panels, which leads me on to the second question in terms of the design of this building. Clearly, carbon footprint for all of us is really important. So two questions here. One is the design and the build going to be of a standard that will enhance the potential energy in that building? And secondly, there's no proposal to put more solar panels on that second south-facing roof. My question is, have you this discussion with the applicant around the carbon footprint of the building and the opportunity to put more solar panels onto that building, which is obviously a benefit to everybody, including the surgeon in reducing costs?
So there wasn't any particular discussions with the applicant on in terms of enhancing energy efficiency or performance of the structure. in terms of when you're just extending buildings, in my experience, don't get too involved in ensuring that they are better performing. I suppose Julie might be able to help answer this question, but there might be scope to include a condition where they can include additional solar panels on the new extension on the roof, so that we might not be losing light onto those solar panels. At least we're keeping the building as efficient as it currently is, rather than losing that.
Chairman, if I could just help you out there. Policy CP11 of Local Plan Part 1 deals with sustainable low and zero carbon built development. And the local plan requires non-residential development to meet BREEAM Excellent. But I think what you would have to accept, and your officers accept this in applying this policy, you can't achieve that when you're adding an extension to an existing building. So given the size of this policy doesn't apply, Chair, so we couldn't make that a requirement of this planning permission. I do understand what members are saying, and obviously that's something we're working towards in our new local plan. But actually, in terms of the current assessment, CP11 wouldn't apply, Chair, given that it's an extension to an existing building, and it wouldn't be possible, highly improbable, I would say, to achieve BREEAM Outstanding.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the guidance, Julie. I turn my attention to the applicant, and I think it's worthwhile just ensuring that you're not going to compromise your existing energy usage with shading on those solar panels. Just make sure it's happening, and perhaps there's an opportunity for you to enhance the efficiency of the building by utilising that south-facing roof design for more solar panels, which is in a perfect position to do.
Thank you, Chair. I also appreciate Julie Pinnock's reference to the policy, but is it possible that, if depending upon our discussions that we hold this morning on this application, that would be possible to make that recommendation? Is that not? Excuse my question there.
I think members will recall that in order to impose a condition, there are 6 tests that national government says that we have to apply. And one of them is obviously that it has to be necessary, reasonable, and I can't remember all the rest of them, I could quote them off to you again. But actually, the local plan policy doesn't require it, so it wouldn't, in my view, be a reasonable condition, Chair, because we don't have a in that too.
Catherine?
If I can just reiterate what Julie is saying, the backbone of what we're looking at is the local plan, and if the policy doesn't actually support what you would like, and in this case, regrettable or not, it just doesn't support it, and that you are actually opening up to appeal if you go down that route. So it's a matter of looking at the new plan moving forward, but at the moment we could not put a condition on.
I thank you for what you've replied with, but I would, if I may, for the record, I would like to second exactly what Councillor Westwood has just very articulately said to the applicant. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. If there are no further contributions or questions, we move on then towards the end of the report, and we've done historic environment. Neighbouring amenity. Questions on that? And sustainable transport. We have discussed transport a little bit already. Or anything else in the report, which is on page 25. And then the conditions and informative. Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Chair. On page 23, it refers to a number of modest roof lights. And I just wanted to get a bit more clarity on that, how much light will be generating from the building of an evening, for example, maybe not in the summer months, but for the evening when you have got residents that are living opposite, somewhat 21 metres away. I appreciate that as the report, if that is correct. Thank you. Thank you.
I think the roof lights you're referring to are actually on the adjacent orthodontist building. So part of the assessment was ensuring that loss of light and overlooking into those roof lights wouldn't be adversely impacted. So that's why those roof lights were referenced. There aren't any roof lights proposed on the new building, so answers your question.
Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Reid.
Chairman, it's not in the report, and that's what worries me a little bit. Construction plan. This is not an easy site to access because it's right immediately adjacent to the highway. Is there a plan construction?
I think we could add that in. Right.
I don't know, Chair. We'd have to. Construction management plan would normally be a recommendation of Hampshire County Council as the highway authority. I don't think in this case we asked for that, so I'm not really sure, Chair. In my view, that would be a reasonable request. And we could add an informative, but we've already got that on, haven't we, about being a good neighbour and times. But I'm not sure requiring a construction management plan would be reasonable, Chair, in my view.
Councillor Reid. No, Councillor Rutter, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. This is another extension on top of a previously approved and about to be built extension. Is there a management construction plan for the original rather larger extension?
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure if there was a condition for a construction management plan on that application, but likewise and similarly to this application, had a look through that decision before making my recommendation on this application. There weren't any conditions recommended by Hampshire Highways at the time who were consulted.
I note that Hampshire Highways has made no objection or no comment, so they seem satisfied. Yeah, no objection. I think it's a good idea, though, to add in the informative about the management of the construction.
Already in the informative.
Is it? Could you tell me what number it is? Oh, look. Number what? Sorry.
3, 4 and 5, all about building.
4 is just the hours of operation.
Yeah. Demolition, etc. is in 4. Hours of operation is also in 4. 5, environmental impact of the building. So it's all things we would consider is already there.
I had the impression that a management plan said more than that.
A construction management plan would be normally something we would agree with Hampshire County. In case obviously they're not requiring that, so it would be a very light touch. We could recommend that the applicant consider construction management with their contractor rather than anything that they submit to us, ably, and consider that.
Sure, it's going to have an.
Well, Hampshire County Council haven't said it will, so we can't add a condition. But we could word we could either amend one of the existing informatives, or we could just word something new up to recommend to the applicant that they consider construction management when they procure contractors to do the work. Chair, maybe that
is the compromise suggestion. So when we come to vote, and if it's approved, we add that in. I think everybody in favour of that.
Agreed.
So we now come, I think, to debate.
Thank you, Chair. I think that this is a perfectly reasonable application. Facilities available to the local population. I welcome the travel to work plan and all the doing to try and encourage people to get to the practice either virtually or in cycling or walking if they're able to, and to increase the amount of parking for those who aren't. The solar panel issue is not a material planning consideration. It perhaps ought to be, and that's something that we need to look at in the new local plan. CP11 requires BREEAM excellence, but only for completely new buildings and not for extensions to existing buildings. So perhaps we need to look at the way that we approach that and make sure that extensions are BREEAM excellent as well, if that's possible, and that's something that needs to be discussed at the local plan discussions, but not here. So at the moment it's not a consideration, but I'm sure that the applicant will have listened carefully to contributions of members and will take, given the climate emergency, obviously important. The cost of energy, as we all know, means that things like solar panels on every available roof are much more essential. I'm pleased to see that the City of Winchester Trust is not making any comments on this, so they also are happy with the new impact on the conservation area. It's going to be minimal. So taking all those things into consideration, I'm happy to.
Thank you. Councillor Westwood.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with everything that Councillor Rutt has just said, and I see no reason why we can't support this particular application going forward. My bigger concern is more broad than this, and we listen to the number of patients and the growth of population and so on. This particular medical practice serves a very densely built local area. Many people will take public transport to that practice. My concern is that this medical practice has been extended several times now to cater for the growth. I think we, within our planning and time, should be very aware that the north and west of Winchester has seen significant numbers of new housing developments over a number of years, and that we should be seriously looking at finding the medical infrastructure and surgeries to support that population, and not just extending existing facilities. So going forwards, I would like to see that from a planning perspective, we ensure that new developments in the area, certainly in the northwest of densely populated Winchester, have the relevant infrastructure, including medical facilities, taken into account when we plan for the growth within.
Thank you. Councillor Pearson.
Thank you, Chair. I also have no issue with this application. There certainly is a need, and that is uncontroversial. Unfortunately, St Paul's, like Salem Road and the Royal Hants, all have the same issues regarding parking, but that is not unusual. The extra space is for patients, not provide extra parking. I know, as a patient of Royal Hants, I know I like to park close by, but I can't always do it. I use the park and ride. But from an architectural point of view, I think it fits very well into this building. It is a space that is there otherwise unused. It squares the building off. I'm sure the actual material that is used will be high insulation. As far as solar panels are concerned, there are other ways of providing heat without using solar panels, so I would not say that's an issue, a reason for us to turn down this application. Again, I would point out to need. I know this area pretty well, and I agree with, I think it was Councillor Westwood said, it is an area of high population density, which emphasises the need once again. It's an amenity close by, very large number of people. The alternative, if we are going to start closing down what is a very modest extension, frankly, because there is no more space for it, unless you go up, and well, that's another issue. Then you have all sorts of architectural issues, which would legislate against us agreeing for that. We already have issues that there may well be one of the hospitals may close down because the NHS is looking to build an alternative, the junction of the 303 and the M3. I know that's a trauma hospital, but that will impact if we're not careful. So is that the alternative you're going to talking about if you consider turning this down? But from a planning point of view, I don't see any reason why this should be turned down, because I'm sure the architects will use high insulation material. They'll make sure there's little energy exit from this building as possible, because that's necessary in order to save costs for the running of the hospital. It's logical, it just fits. I'm certainly not tying my anchor to solar panels and say there are other ways of providing heating without solar panels. So I support, and thank you very much, Jordan. Very clear, concise explanation of your point, and I agree with it very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Clear.
Thank you, Chair. Well, just to say, like so many areas, there is a growing population, which obviously results in demand on medical practices and surgeries. So to my mind, I feel this can only be seen to be of great benefit to the community, and I do support the officer for approval. Thank you.
Thank you. And I too shall be supporting the application. This application is at committee because of the objections from members of the public on page 17. And I do think that we have either discussed most of them or the answers are in the report. In my own village, we have a modest extension of the doctor's surgery, which, you know, this is an inevitable consequence of taking extra housing. The next two, it's not in Winchester district, but in Fareham, we have, of course, the new settlement of Wellbourne, and currently there are no medical facilities planned. There will be, because it is actually illegal not to provide patients with medical care. So it is a constant problem now of development and providing adequate medical facilities so that you don't have to either meet in cupboards or wait, you know, months for an appointment. But well done to this practice for seeking a way of building in the conservation area and providing the extra space which their residents need. So I'm going to move to the decision. This application has been recommended for approval, and if we vote for approval, we are also adding in an informative. Ms. Pinnock, could you just remind us of what that's going to say?
Thank you, Chair. I've just typed something out. It is recommended that the applicant, and I put in brackets, or their contractor, prepares a construction management plan to be followed as part of the construction process to ensure limited impact to the local highway network and local.
Thank you. So all those in favour of permission of this application, please show.
Thank you, Chair. That's unanimous.
Thank you. So that application is approved. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Hayden, for coming along. You can stay if you wish, but I'm sure you've got more important things to do. Those who are listening at home, we're just getting ready to do the next item. Be opened shortly.
Testing.
Right, so I think we're ready. So this is agenda item number 8. And on the update sheet, the description has been altered to replacement single-story side extension. It's case 22/00043/HOU, and it's at 23 Morley Drive, Bishop's Waltham. And the officer presenting this application is again Jordan Wiseman. Thank you, Jordan, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. So this application is for a replacement single-storey side extension on the existing property. This slide here shows the application site outlined in red. The next slide here shows the application site outlined in red with the new extension hatched out. This slide here shows the proposed elevations and floor plans. Now moving on to site photographs. This is a view of the existing house from the front. The proposed extension is to the left, just behind this side gate here. Another view of the front of the property, again with the extension proposed, is to the left of this wall here. This photo shows a view from the driveway through the side access gate. The proposed extension is to come off right here. This is a view of the application site from the rear garden. The proposed side extension is to sit here, and you can see the existing concrete base here on the ground, which supported the previous extension, which has been removed. That concludes the presentation. The recommendation is to approve.
Thank you very much. We have no public speakers. So questions on any part of the report? Councillor Reid.
Chairman, it's with regard to its location. It's 300 metres from the boundary of the Southdown National Park. It's also 30 metres east of the Bishop's Waltham conservation area. Before I'm told off for saying not in the dark skies, it's so close to the dark National Park. If I read it correctly, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, it does say under neighbourhood amenities, an ultimate sentence, or loss of light issues. So presumably the roof lights are going to have shields.
I believe the section you might be referring to in terms of loss of light might be on the impact on neighbouring residential amenity in terms of assessing loss of light on neighbouring properties, not the dark skies itself. The site doesn't fall within the dark night skies area. Don't have any policies particularly restricting light pollution on the dark night skies in our current local plan.
Thank you, Chair. I thought that's what might it be. We are close to the dark skies, and fortunately light doesn't tend to look at boundaries.
I think I would say, as a member of the Downs Planning and not an officer there, that this house is in the middle of a settlement where there is other light spill as well. So, Councillor Rutter.
Thank you, Chair. I wonder if it might be, for the benefit of people listening at home, it might be sensible to explain why this seemingly very simple application has actually come to committee. Thank you.
Shall I do that? I mean, this application is at committee because it is the application of a councillor on Winchester City Council. That doesn't mean that we will go through it lightly. Councillor Pearson. Yes.
Chair. Yes, I looked through this report 2 or 3 times, and I don't see any mention of material the walls of this will be made of. This is a flint, it's a modern flint building. Now, to have anything other than flint wall, make it a bit like a carbuncle. Do we have any information about what the side walls of the, well, it's an extension, hardly call it an extension, but do you have any information about that?
Yes, so in the application form submitted with the application in the materials section, it's indicated that the materials on the walls are to be brickwork to match the existing property. I've just brought up the elevation where the proposed extension is to go, and the bricks are to match this, right, the bricks on this wall here.
So it won't stand out as unusual material?
It's not considered to do so, no,
right,
and it's limited visibility from the street scene.
Right, thank you, Jordan.
Any further questions? If not, debate. Councillor Reid.
Chairman, there's no reason that I can see why this should not be.
Councillor Pearson.
I have the same opinion. I mean, I agree with Councillor Reid's comment about the lights, but as somebody said, I think you might have said, Chairman, it is actually surrounded by other housing. So I doubt whether you could see this building from the National Park, certainly not the result of those lights. So I would really downplay that at all. It's a question whether it actually fits into the building, and when you put something like this on it, that's a bit of a question. Frankly, I don't see any problem with that. It's a bit difficult to say, no, you can't have that because I've got a porch myself. That's not the reason why I'm in favour of it, because it fits, and I tell Peter I like his report. Unless you're Peter, let's change your name.
Well, hopefully you've been reassured on that point. Okay. So any further debate? Yes, of course.
Just for the record, Chair, I think Councillor Reid mentioned in addition the distance to the conservation area, and similarly I think your officers are satisfied that there's no impact to the character of the conservation area in this regard, and I just thought it's worth saying that for the record.
Thank you.
Yes, Chairman, what I'd respond to that is this is modern housing. It's away from the actual conservation central Bishop's Waltham.
Yes.
So, when we're saying it's conservation area, I would say, hang on.
Yeah.
The actual conservation, the centre of the village, not this area.
Yeah, we've got the point, Councillor Pearson, thank you. So, if there's no more contributions, then this application has been recommended for approval. All those in favour, please show.
Thank you, Chair. That's unanimous.
Thank you. So that application is approved. Thank you. Members, shall we carry on? Yes. So the next application, which was land to the rear of Alma Inn in Upham, has been withdrawn. And so we now come to the confirmation of a TPO at land at Beaufort Drive, Bishop's Waltham. And this is the TPO order 2306. Have Ivan Girdler. No, it's not wrong, is it on the, yeah. Ivan Girdler, who is the presenting officer. Just changing over officers. Morning, Ivan.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning.
When you're ready.
Thank you. Yeah, this comes to committee because of one objection to the TPO. So it's confirmation of TPO 2306, land at Beaufort Drive, Bishop's Waltham. Problems not on here, but not on there. Oh, there we go. Yes, so the history is the land at Bonefoot Drive was put up for sale by auction in November 2021. The land included 3 open spaces, which I'll show you in a minute on the map, that have mature trees growing on them. The estate agent marketing the sale of land showed a computer-generated image of newly built homes on the land, and consequently, subsequently, the new owner of the land is now dividing into smaller parcels and offering to sell to the residents there. So TPO 2306 was served to preserve the trees on the open spaces, and so we received 1 objection to the TPO. The open spaces, if we can get this. I can't seem to get there. The open land is, when you see Denwolf Close, it's the piece of land underneath there, and the piece in front of St Andrew's Close and Wainfoot Close behind. So a copy of the TPO is here. You can see the pieces of land with the trees on that the TPO applies to. These are pictures of the trees. Look at this, is looking from Langton Road, so you're looking sort of northwards up Beaufort Drive. So this is the first open space on the right as you go up Beaufort Drive. There's mature birch and alder trees growing on the open space there, and a few new trees being planted on there as well. This is further up the drive, the drive. On the right again, you can see the trees there. That's the trees that the TPO applies to. And then this is looking back the other way down, but then drive down to Beaufort Drive, I mean down to Langton Road, so on the left. The summary of the objection is that a lady says the land at one of the TPO's areas is too small for development. The trees overhang her house and the roots of the trees could undermine her dwelling. The TPO will make it future pruning of the trees problematic for her, and the TPO will hinder her free access to prune the trees. This is the lady's house that the is objecting to. You can see there with the wooden frontage. The piece of land she's objecting to is on the right of her property, then in the car park. There's 4 trees there. That's the trees that she's objecting to having the TPO on them. So the area that there, I'll show you some more photographs in a minute. The area there is that the area could be developed behind her, but the TPO will not stop any future maintenance of the trees and would not be problematic to removing tree growth to abate structural damage to the property. The trees are not with the ownership of the objector, so although she's gone out and trimmed the trees in the past, they're not her trees. They've been privately sold now, so they're not her trees anyway. The trees don't overhang her property. The closest tree to the end wall of the objector's house is 5.5 metres. She claimed it was 3 metres, but it's actually 5.5. It's a small medium tree, and between the end of the flank wall of the objector's house is a metallised surface footway with concrete edgings, so that there's obstruction to the roots by the footpath under construction. At the time of my inspection of the footpath open spaces, there was no root disturbance to these areas. And also, I asked the objector for any structural reports as evidence of claim to support her claim that a tree was damaging her property, and she said that she wouldn't do that, and that she didn't want to bother her insurance company. So there's no evidence of structural damage. So this is the nearest tree to the property. As you can see there on the left, there's the end flank of a wall of our house with a shrub bed. There's the metallised surface footpath in the middle, and there's the small tree on the right. As you can see, it's not overhanging our garden. It's not overhanging our property. It's completely clear of it. Again, this is actually in the car park looking east. You can see the lady's house behind. There's the 4 trees. Car park. So the government guidelines is that it may be expedient to make an order if the authority believes there's a risk of a tree being felled. In this case, we don't know what's going to happen to the parcels of land. We don't know if someone will come and fell the trees over a weekend. just don't know what's going to happen. So it is actually insurance policy to ensure the trees are there. It's not necessarily to be an immediate risk. So we know there could be a risk. It's not going to immediately, but there could be a risk that they could come in. And also changes in property ownership is not always known in advance. So it's appropriate to TPO the trees proactively to ensure that they stay. So the conclusion, the trees are protected by TPO 6, are mature trees and full public view. So they tick the boxes for public amenity. They are they may be under threat from development pressures, but they are also of reasonable health and normal vitality and are worthy of protection. The recommendation is that the TPO is confirmed.
Thank you very much. Questions on the report? Councillor Westwood?
Thank you, Chair. Just a question, Ivan, on the tree that the director is referring to. It's a mature tree. Is it a fully grown mature tree?
It's a mature tree at the moment. I don't anticipate it to get much taller, much bigger. It may, because the conditions it's in, that the roots won't go into the path because there's no nutrients in the path. You know, roots only go where there's soil and water and moisture, so it won't use that area.
Councillor Edwards?
Yeah, just trying to understand the wider context of this. May we take it that the picture issued showing potential houses on this land near flight of fancy by the estate agent? Have there been any procedures might know of in that direction?
Well, the best we know of is that when it went to auction, we looked on the website and there was a computer generated picture of houses along the front. So, you know, we took that as a threat. What they're actually going to do, we don't know. So the TPO really is an insurance policy, ensure that, you know, if there is development there, that the trees are protected, and they talk to us about, you know, protecting them and include them in if don't occurs, make sure they're, you know, they're there. Fantasy, I couldn't say whether it's a fantasy or whatever, but, you know, I can only say what's put in front of me. And that.
Any further questions? If not, debate. Councillor Pearson?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I fully support Ivan's conclusion about this. One of the delights I would have thought of this area is actually those trees. And our policies, I think our policies, certainly as far as environment is concerned, is to promote trees on open spaces in such a development. And it would be quite contrary to us if we said, no, this tree could be cut down. The canopy is clear of that house, and the roots rarely go beyond the canopy. I think I'm right on that one. I just cannot see any argument for bringing it down. It's not a danger. I mean, yeah, I'm sorry, it does shed leaves. And birds nest in there, and you might get bird dropping. I know this might be an issue. There are complaints about this. I just can't support this objection in any way, so I support you fully.
Councillor Reid. Thank you, Councillor Pearson.
Yeah, well, when this estate was planned out, landscaping is an important factor. And I think there's nothing to endanger the trees. Doesn't mean you say you've got to stop work on it. Work can be carried out, but it's going to be carried out under a protection order. The only thing that worries me a little bit, and I've got some of this in my own parish, is trees do grow, and I've just indicated that it's probably not going to go that much taller. But unfortunately, when high winds come, they do whip, and it's the whipping on the house that could cause a little damage. But that can be dealt with. I'm in favour of the application.
Thank you, and I know this site very well because we used to share lifts with to the local swimming club with a family that lived in there, and I mean it's actually a very densely developed little estate, and the trees are something which relieves the visual element of that site. So it would be pity to lose them from the visual point of view. And we all know trees' contribution anyway to the atmosphere. So, I mean, ideally, I think we'd like to protect all trees, but it's a very complicated and expensive process. So we can only act as we are now when we think the trees are under threat. And I would have thought that if we'd seen a computer makeup of houses on the internet of development of houses there, then that puts the trees under threat, and that certainly isn't what I think we should be doing. So yes, I'm very strongly supporting the confirmation of this TPO. So the recommendation is that this tree preservation order 2306 is confirmed. All those in favour?
Thank you, Chair. That's unanimous.
Thank you very much. So that tree preservation order is confirmed.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you very much, Ivan. And that brings us to the last item of the day, which is it? Yes, which is the summary of appeal decisions, October to December last year. And we can read the detail on the council's website, but we can see on page 125 the percentages of those allowed and dismissed. You want to speak to this, Julie?
Only to pick out two errors, Chairman. As you've just rightly read out on page 123, it says that the period is October to December. Actually, the period is January to March 22, and I think there hasn't been, that's correct on page 125 and on the header of 126, but actually there's an error in that descriptor there, so I just wanted to highlight that so as we pick that up in the minutes. And also, rather embarrassingly, Chair, I would say that the percentages are wrong. They're the wrong way round. So actually the appeals allowed was only 40% and the appeals dismissed was 60%. So 2 of the 3 were allowed and 3 were dismissed, Chair, which is a better percentage and more aligned with our aim to win over, you know, the national is that you should sort of achieve 70%, and obviously this is only a quarter, but when we look at that over a rolling 2-year period, we're well within the 70% to Chair. I don't think there's any, I suppose, you know, is there anything of note here? I'm happy to take questions on any of the appeals, Chair, best I can.
Thank you. And there's only one of these appeal decisions which was at committee, which officer recommended approval, and we recommended approval, but it was overturned by the inspector. Councillor Lamy.
Thank you, Chair. Item number 3 gives me great concern because that was a flagrant breach and was retrospective. What action is the council going to take on this particular one, as the neighbours on this are really concerned?
Not too sure what you're highlighting, Councillor Leeming.
Well, on this particular one, it was retrospective.
Yeah.
He turned it down and the appeal was dismissed. What action, if any, we're going to be taking on this particular breach?
I see. Would you like to do that offline, or can you answer that now?
I don't think I can answer it directly now, Chair. What I'd say is it would depend on the inspector's conclusions for dismissing whether they left any windows or amended plans or variation. What discussions are going on with the officer in that regard. I can talk to Cameron Taylor and I can ask him to give detail of that myself. It may be that they're looking to plans. Not, we would have to proceed. Yeah.
Any further contributions? No. So I think all we have to do is to note Is that correct? We have to note that paper. Yeah, and that's duly noted. So that brings us to the end of this morning's session. And we did mention it briefly yesterday, but very sadly, our legal guru is not going to be with us again. And we're all very sad about that. And I know we thanked you yesterday, but I think we should publicly thank you again, Catherine. You've given us a lot of help and your advice has been excellent, and we shall miss you. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much for your kind words. I have always enjoyed this planning.